Meetings.
No.
Welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. I want to ask that Commissioner Thomas would lead us in our invocation and pledge. Please stand and join us.
Thank you, John. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We appreciate this time. We can call on your name and ask you to be present with us tonight. Ask you for your wisdom and guidance with us. We thank you for our citizens that we serve, and may we just continue to make Wakulla County a wonderful place to live. Ask your peace and mercy over our first responders and our military that keep us safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There'll be several times tonight that you can speak. If you desire to speak on the speakers from this meeting or at the last, fill out a card over here with Jessica. Or if you want to speak on any item that's on the agenda, you may do that also. But just make sure you have a card filled out. First order of business is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, there's a couple changes. Tab 21, dealing with the Airport Authority, and tab 19, dealing with the subrecipient grant from Gulf Consortium, are going to be tabled to a future meeting.
I modify my motion.
Also, Mr. Chairman, we're going to pull item number 10 from consent and put it on general business. The purpose of that is for budget clarification on the item.
Okay, noting those changes.
Noted changes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, could we just reiterate that we're tabling the airport issue? I know there's a couple people out there, so if you'd like to speak and you didn't fill out a speaker card for citizens to be heard, you may want to do that, because we're not going to actually go to that agenda item.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something real quick? On that airport item, we'll have a discussion with the board during our county attorney's time, so there won't be any votes, but we'll just have a discussion about it, if you just for further.
All right, well, we're at the citizens to be heard, and we have Cheryl Kirsteiner.
Well, it's good to see you again, Commissioners. Happy New Year. I'm Cheryl Kirsteiner, 8 Stinson Taxiway. HB 1345 to establish the Wakulla County Airport Authority, filed in the House by Representative Schoaf, has been substantively revised from the original version, which had been created in 2019 with extensive cooperation and collaboration between Wakulla County and the Airport Committee from the Tarpine HOA as representatives of the primary stakeholders in the airport. At the open hearing of the Wakulla delegation on November 18th, at which time that document was presented, Representative Schoaf recommended, with approval by Senator Montford, that 3 items contained in the aforementioned 2019 enabling document be amended. 1, remove the language granting authority to exercise eminent domain. 2, change the number of governing board members from 3 to 5. And 3, remove the authority to use any form of taxation to fund ongoing maintenance, including special assessments within the airport authority area only, as defined in the document. The Wakulla delegation voted unanimously to support the bill as presented, with revision to those 3 items. It should be mentioned that County Attorney Encinosa and the HOA Airport Committee had previously agreed to remove the language granting authority to exercise eminent domain, and that change had already been made to the document. Following a lengthy delay in bill drafting, the revised final draft of the bill finally emerged. You can imagine our surprise when the bill came out with several significant changes and additions. I won't take time right now to go into all of those items, but they're huge. In conclusion, our position is that HB 1345, as it came out of bill drafting, is fatally flawed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ethan Braverman.
Yes, my name is Ethan, and in my neighborhood there on Wakulla Aaron Road, there's a lot of speeding, especially when people come off the dirt road. and I've almost been hit countless times. And there's little kids around my neighborhood that go and walk around, and I don't want to see them get hit. Maybe if we could put some speed bumps, just maybe make everybody slow down a little bit more and not have the chance of hitting one of them little kids. I think that could dramatically help everybody in my neighborhood to change the speeding around where I am.
So they're speeding coming off the pavement going onto the dirt road?
That both ways.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Kenny Braverman?
Yeah, I was here. I was told that it was being tabled to next time, but I figured I might as well, since I'm here, speak up about it. We live on 113 Shadow Oak Circle, and I'm vehemently opposed to the construction the rezoning of the construction on Cedar Avenue, as I've seen. I'm not opposed to having lower income housing, but I mean, you got 3 really nice neighborhoods there and some other nice neighborhoods in the area. By doing something like that, you will just devalue those neighborhoods, and you'll get a lot of riffraff in that area.
Okay.
And I'm pretty opposed to that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
John Smith?
John, the airport issue's tabled tonight, by the way.
Thank you, sir. I just found that out, and I will be very, very brief. I just wanted to know I came to speak for the Oklahoma Bay Alliance that's south, basically the south end of the airport, on the other side, on the south side of Surf Road, and remind you that we are opposed to any bill, your legislation, anything else that expands this airport or provides public money to it. We have obviously been working, and some of y'all have heard us for years, over this issue. We're not opposed to the airport being there, regardless of what your manager says. Over the years, we basically said we would support the expansion necessary to meet minimum standards. We will still do that. However, we're totally opposed to any expansion, and this bill, airport bill, is full of expansion language and so forth, even as it's drafted now. We're also, because you put in the master plan that the expansion in excess of what would be needed for a minimum is subject to funding. You put us in the category basically now of us having to oppose. If you get funded, you can expand. So basically, we're totally opposed to any expanding. We will spend whatever necessary resources that we have to try to kill your bill. So basically, we're in the same place that I talked to every one of you last year. Right after this bill was introduced, we haven't changed our position at all and do not intend to. This particular bill, I would tell you, is not dead. Obviously, it just got introduced, but it has a major health issue. And since your county airport administrator decided that he was going to, in furtherance of your issue, start a junkyard across the street from us, that bill, those pictures from that, put this bill in ICU. Thank you. Oh, by the way, when you do get to it, I'll be glad to answer any questions regarding the bill, what's in the bill, and the processes and procedures that you're going to have to go through to move it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that's all the citizens to be heard. We'll move on to awards and presentations, which there are none.
Move consent.
Consent
Second.
with items 10
10
and 19
taken off.
removed. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. David?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number, excuse me, we're going to go back to item number 10 from general business. This is for purchase of vehicles. There was a typo in the language where it pertains to the budgetary. It said 1 cent sales tax building fund. There's no such thing. It was a typo. This will actually come from the building fund. The dollars will come from the building fund.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
And then also, the one that's being transferred to the waste collection service, that's a enterprise zone, so that's going to be charged if there's any value left.
If there's any depreciated value, yes, it'll go to the books of the
Okay.
fund, yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Off the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 22, request board approval of resolution to commit funding necessary for the realignment of the intersection of Wooden Lake Road and East Ivan Road at US 319 as required by FDOT to install a traffic light at the intersection. As you remember, this is part of a deal we struck with DOT that if we purchased the land and agreed to pay for the realignment of Wooden Lake Road, they would in turn install at their expense during the construction of that segment a traffic light at that intersection. This is the final thing. We've already purchased the land. We have the engineered drawings for the road. This commits our county to that. The project is being let as we speak. That segment is being let on 319, so therefore 2-year construction time, 2.5 years we'll have to have it completed by then, which
Motion
should be
approved.
fine.
Second.
And they needed this resolution, is what they told
Yes.
us, in order for them to go ahead and put it in their plan.
That's right. This is the final step. We had to have 3 steps. Had to have the purchase the land, had the engineering drawings for the road completed, which we already submitted to them, as well as this resolution, and then that's our part of the deal, and they're going to give us a letter.
It's a good deal for us.
This was real important for that
Putting turn
intersection.
lanes in and stop traffic light and everything
Yeah.
at their expense. This is
Okay,
huge.
Before we leave that, you said it'll be let in January.
The project is under, I understand it's
Start
it's let-
construction in March, yeah.
March.
Yeah.
State, you're talking about the state project,
State
not
project,
our
that
side.
segment from Walmart to Bloxham,
Right.
right, or just past
They
Bloxham.
just updated us at CRTPA.
Is it Walmart or East Ivan?
Well, right past East Ivan, between East Ivan and Walmart.
Not all the way to Walmart.
No.
Right.
It ends right past East Ivan intersection.
East Ivan to Bloxham. Will start in
Basically,
this
yes.
start this year.
It'll start in the next few months
So it'll be 2 phases working.
at one time.
At one
That's
time.
right.
Finishing.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I want to make sure the public knew that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've offered the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, no public hearings. Planning and zoning.
Mr. Chairman, the first item up is tab 16. Tab 14 and 15 were noted as tabled on your agenda. Tab 16 is an application for change of zoning, R 1916. Carmen Corley is the owner, Scott Gaby is the agent. This is to change zoning from ag to low-density residential on the property located at the intersection of Cager, Posey, and Wakulla Aaron Road. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the County Code, each commission member should disclose any contact they may have received from interested parties regarding this application.
None?
None.
None.
I got an email from a Miss Candler today. That's the only one.
I've had emails and discussions with numerous people that are interested in this issue because of the proximity to the Cutchins development.
I did receive an email from that Miss Campbell.
Tricia Cameron.
And that email was opposed or in favor of it?
Opposed.
Opposed. Okay. If there's anybody here who's going to provide any information on this application, including the applicant and the applicant's agent, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, this rezoning request is for a 60-acre parcel located at the intersection of Cager Posey and Wakulla Aaron Road. The future land use designation for this property is urban fringe, which does allow 2 dwelling units per acre. The proposed rezoning to LDR would be consistent with that and would not allow for a higher rate of density than what the comp plan currently allows for. The subject property is located within the Crawfordville Town Plan in an area that is conceptually identified for low-density residential. Currently, the property is vacant and located within the X flood zone based on the FEMA flood maps. The advertisement for tonight's public hearing appeared in the Wakulla News on January 2nd of this year. Staff has not received any written comments pertaining to this request and is recommending option 1 for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve option 1. And we have one citizen to be heard. Gary Haig.
Gary Haig, 40 Gardner Circle East, Crawfordville. I have one question is, when will the realignment of Cager Posey and East Ivan roads be available, or when will it be in there for the public to comment on, or will it be available? When these developments all build out that you all have been approving here lately, there's going to be close to 1,000 cars extra on the roads at those intersections there. So a realignment of that East Ivan and Cager Posey is really necessary. Also, you know, we need sidewalks in that area too. There's going to be, out of all of the 1,200 people that are going to be added with all these new houses, there's going to be over 200 kids. And how are those kids going to get down to McDonald's and down to town? You know, we need to put sidewalks along Wakulla Aaron all the way down. You know, the town plan's supposed to be walkable. And, you know, so it's time for the county to start putting in infrastructure and to match it and to match the amount of development that they're approving. You know, if this was smart growth, we would have already had the infrastructure in place. We would have had sidewalks built or started or proposed, but none of that has even come forward yet. We don't even have transportation lanes on the side of the roads for a bike to ride on. And if you're going to have 200 kids, you know, some of them are going to be on foot, and like those people said earlier, you know, somebody's going to get hurt down there. I just want that realignment of Cager Posey and East Ivan roads considered. I don't know where it falls in the process and if we have a say-so in it.
Thank you. David, I've advocated to realign that road for years, as you know. And I think what we're going to try to do is if this property develops, we're going to make them give right-of-way to realign
Yes,
that
we
road.
will have to, yes. And also, we've actually started a sidewalk program that on Trice Lane that will continue up Wakulla Aaron.
And that realignment the gentleman mentioned has been in our long-term
Yes.
transportation plan for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Just we haven't had in fact, we tried to work with the property owner to buy the right-of-way. They wouldn't sell it. So now, here we
That
are.
realignment will make a big difference in that
Absolutely.
once that happens.
And
Huge
that's part of
difference.
the long-term
Yeah.
Ray Winkle, Alexander, you know.
Right.
That'll cut down
For this,
tremendously.
for where we're putting this development with the one we've already approved there, this is critically important in the future. And we can't force the developer to do this. So it's going to take some negotiation somewhere. And we need to be doing our infrastructure building ahead of time for what's coming to this area.
We tried to do that realignment, trust me, but
I know it's like the Wooden Lake Road one. You know, yours was the Cager Posey. I was advocating Wooden Lake Road. We just are lucky on the Wooden Lake Road property owner was willing to sell. My concern is about the sewage collection going on, and I'm hoping that as we move forward, we're going to have a presentation about whether our tap fee is enough, because I keep looking at the numbers on the tap fee, and it just looks like we're not collecting enough tap fees as we're moving forward.
Our capacity is okay. We're in good shape for the shape we're in. No, we're in good shape.
I agree. We need to relook at the tap
And we're going to look at
We
those.
need to look at tap fees. They haven't been changed in 15 years.
And access,
build a septic
that's
tank.
right. But we something that we got to look at, but we also have to get someone in here to do a formal study before we can adopt those. I just can't. I know what they should be, but I can't do that.
I know, but we need to bring forward something to do the formal study so we can make sure our tap fees are
We're
right.
working on that RFP right now for that.
If you
for
dig
company.
deep enough into the code, it actually says that the Public Works Department annually is supposed to recommend to the board what the access charge should be. I know I did it at least once or twice. You might remember we revised it a few times. It used to be really, really low. But the mechanism is in the code right now for the
Right, well,
Public
we
Works
gotta,
Department.
we want to make sure, since we haven't done it so long, that we do it and we do it right. So if we get any type of legal challenge, that we can defend that, and
You can ask
that's what
Nanette,
we're
I just
doing.
did it on Excel program. right
Well, that's fine. I just think we need to move that forward because we got a lot of houses
It's,
coming
like
to
I say,
this
it's
one
in the
location.
RFP mode. It's getting ready to put it on. In fact, tomorrow I talked to Brandy about it, so I've got all the information on it, scope of work.
Okay, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Well, I did want to say that, you know, this is inside the town plan. This is the density we've already said we wanted to have. You know, I was opposed to the other two developments here because they were outside the town plan, but this is what we've already said we wanted to have in our community, so I'm going to vote to support it.
Okay, again, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is tab 17. This is rezoning 1919. This is on Woodville Highway. The proposed change is from RR1 to C2. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the code, each commission member needs to disclose any ex parte communications they may have received regarding this item.
Talk to applicant.
Talk to the applicant.
As well, to the applicant.
Not this time. A year ago, I talked to him, but not this time.
Not this time, and I've had numerous emails about it. So.
I believe we have at least one email in opposition that we will move into the record. It is from Zach Witten, and I'll get that to the clerk. It poses the application based upon potential traffic that it will put onto Old Woodville Road.
We also received a package from the applicant, and I gave that to Summer for...
Okay. We'll also include that with the record for this item. If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, including the applicant, please stand up to be sworn.
If you put in a card to speak on this item, you need to stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, this rezoning request is for a 2-acre parcel that has frontage on both Woodville Highway and Old Woodville Road and lies just south of 1303 Old Woodville Highway. This is located just north of Jerry's Bait and Tackle in the Wakulla Station area, just for reference. In November of 2018, the board did review a very similar application for this property and did deny it at that time. However, a new application has been made. I would like to note that the future land use designation of Rural 2 does provide that new commercial rezonings should be located within a quarter mile of a major intersection. This property does lie approximately 1 mile from a qualifying intersection, and that would be at Bloxham Cutoff and Woodville Highway. However, the comp plan does allow for the board to approve rezonings that lie beyond that quarter mile if they make the following findings. 1, that the proposed rezoning is compatible with the existing character of the surrounding area, and 2, that existing residentially zoned parcels will not be negatively impacted by the proposed zoning change. Staff would also like to note that approximately 160 feet south of the subject property are several parcels that are zoned C2 general commercial, one of which is currently under construction as the North Florida spray foam business. And immediately north, approximately 500 feet, is a light industrial zoning category, which operates as an automotive junkyard, if you will. The advertisement for this public hearing appeared at the January 2nd advertisement of the Wakulla News, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval unanimously for this item, and staff is also recommending approval.
Wish to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have several citizens to speak. John Schuff.
Thank you. I'm John Schuff, and I'm here representing our Economic Development Council tonight. I wanted to speak in favor of this proposal. I know it came up last year, didn't quite make it. I would like to see it make it. There's several venues around the county that just stayed booked out for weddings and such, and we have some of our members that complain that if somebody in their family goes to a wedding, they have to go to Tallahassee to have it. So it's just, we need to keep our tax dollars here in the county. Seems like being fronting out onto Woodville Highway, there should not be any traffic problems with the project. And what else do I have down here? We have a couple EDC members here that are here to support, with Steve Cushman, Mary Wallace, and Jessica Revel. So thank you, and I hope you'll vote to support this proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Summer, is he proposing, if I could, Mr. Chairman, is he proposing to access on Old Woodville Highway or Woodville Highway?
A site plan has not been submitted yet. He could potentially have access from one or both of those locations.
What has he said?
Some of, he has not indicated, at least in this application process to me, what his intent is for access.
Okay, Steve Cushman? Steve Cushman, I'm also here representing Wakulla EDC. As you all know, we were just approved to have a director of EDC, which that person, under our intent, is to have them go out and seek things like this, primarily something that would bring bigger paying jobs here. But this is something that falls within what we're after here. Just like John said, a lot of people come here, they're looking for a rural venue to have a wedding. You don't get that in Tallahassee, you get that here. This is about as rural as we're ever going to get, and still be accessible from a major highway, which is Woodville Highway. If they wanted to do it in Crawfordville, they can go to Tallahassee just as quick right now. They don't have to stay here and do this. I mean, putting it where it is going to make it somewhat rural. When I managed Indian Springs for 6 years, I had not less than 85 calls over that time frame, people wanting to have wedding venues at the spring. The problem is they want that rural setting that's kind of wild, and the spring was a big part of it. But when we brought them down to show them the spring, and it's murky because of what's happened in the slough run going to Wakulla Springs, where it's built up over the roadbed there and it's backing it up, it stays brown a lot of the time of the year. We get really crystal clear blue water when there's a heavy rain and it raises the water level, then it turns that way, and people want to have venues there. But in my opinion, that's what they're looking for, is somewhere rural, sort of like where we had the award ceremony 2 years ago up off of Natural Bridge Road. That became a controversy because it's Wakulla County Chamber having a ceremony in Leon County, and there were a lot of people upset about that. So having a venue place like this, I think, is something we need to have here, and it's something that I've heard over the past 8 or 9 years, people wanting something like this. But now I see the same people that were wanting it 8 years ago opposing it because of where it's located. But I don't know where you're going to locate something in this county to keep that rural setting and then still be able to access roadways other than where you're at now. I mean, I think the plan is to probably change it to put the traffic on the Woodville Highway and stay off Old Woodville Highway, which would help some, but, that's up to the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dodd Walker?
Dodd Walker, 10 Bradley Court. I have my school board shirt on, but I'm not here representing the school board. I'm here just to support Mr. Moorfield. He's a fine man. His family has done so much for this community, for our school system, behind the scenes that people do not know. And I have no doubt that this will continue. This facility will continue to support our community in that. I do not live in the area anymore, so I won't speak to like I do, but I grew up there. I know that this stretch has a history of commercial venues. It was a pulpwood site. When I was a kid, catching a bus, I'd see the pine tree trucks coming in the morning, and my uncle's home was sold to be a restaurant there. If you remember the barbecue restaurant that was there, burned down years ago. So this has decades of commercial use, and we got the right people that are wanting to do this. I think it's going to be a great facility.
Thank you. Nick, looks like Nick and Nancy John.
Commission, I did provide our concerns in a document for you. We were here last year and opposed this. We're neighbors, Nick, Nancy, John, 1374 Old Woodville Road. We live just down the street from this parcel. I'm just going to read this real quick. The application to rezone this 2-acre parcel faces both highways, Old Woodville and Woodville, and we don't believe it's in the interest of the residents that live nearby, of which there are about 80 to 100 homes in that area, subdivision behind Old Woodville off of Cumberland Trace, all rural. Our 3 major concerns are alcoholic beverages across the street from the state trailhead and children's playground. Both occur on Saturdays and Sundays. Those playgrounds are full of kids. If you know where the playground is, the St. Mark's Trailhead. That's about 300 feet from this lot. There's the trail itself. And then the second concern would be traffic. For an event venue, most of the attendees arrive approximately the same time. Fred said that he's planning on a couple hundred folks attending this, and that would create a good deal of congestion for us. Right now, Old Woodville Road is easier to walk down than the trail. Sometimes I have to get off the trail because of bikes and walk down the road when we're walking down to Bluxom Cutoff and back with the dogs. I don't think it'll be that way on weekends anymore if this site is approved for commercial. And our third major concern, which came up at the meeting last November when this was disapproved, came from some of the commissioners, and that was that the disapproving, at this meeting it was stated by the Planning Commission, and just restated again, that the site plan is determined after this is approved, so that there can't be conditions or access planning conditions when this is approved. I trust Fred and believe him as a good man, and he is a good man. But if this isn't a success in a year or two, we've got a C2 lot across the street in a rural area that anyone can conduct business in by filing a new site plan. And they can do business on Old Woodville Road. So we urge the commission to consider this. It's a beautiful rural natural setting. Ironically, that's why they want to come there. And it seems that that's always the way it is. Everybody meets in the place where there's nobody living and creates congestion when they get there. So that's our concern.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that the quarter-mile rule should apply to this business because of the concerns that we have. This is going to cause a lot of traffic. I've recently found out that there are 3 subdivisions west of Cumberland Trace, and that is their only way in and out of their subdivisions. And there's over 70 homes and growing in there. And from what a few I've been told, they were never notified that this would affect them. So that is why I am against this.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Jack Alsop.
Jack Alsop. I own the salvage yard just north of where I live at, and been there 15 years. Traffic is unbearable during working hours from about 4 o'clock to about 5:30. Sometimes it takes 7-8 minutes to get on my driveway. So I don't think they're going to have a lot much traffic, add on to that much traffic. But I just want to say they're good people. I've known them for about 14 years. I don't see no problem with it myself. So I'm all for it myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathy Levitt.
My name is Kathy Lovett. I'm at 603 Hunters Trace. I'm on that side of the county, and I'm in support of the wedding venue. I've worked several events. I decorate for weddings with the Moorfields, and they do a professional job. They're business owners. They give back to the community, and I don't see where it would have a problem, create any kind of problem, especially if you're coming in off of Main Woodville Highway. We need more things on our side of the county. We don't have hardly anything over there. I mean, Ralph, you can attest to that, neighbor.
It's pretty quiet.
It's pretty quiet. So I know they're good people. I know they give back to the community and help people. I know they do things that they don't always tell people what they're doing, but they help people out. And so I don't see a problem with it, and I am in support of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fred Moorfield.
Fred Moorfield, 1303 Old Woodville Road. Any questions?
Is it your intent to access off of the main road or the back road, or is he going to leave that up to DOT?
It would be off the main road, and I've already spoken to the gentleman in planning and zoning that goes around and checks for new driveways and whatnot that's being put in, and he's the one who forwarded me over to FDOT. They're the ones who will have to establish whether an apron or not is going to be needed, and how large the apron and how large the entrance to the property would have to be.
I'm just saying, sometimes when you go to get a DOT driveway permit, if you have access via county road, they won't give you a DOT driveway permit, but it sounds like in your case, I mean, if you're on a corner, for example,
Right.
but you're not on a corner,
That is correct.
so they're going to give you a drive, and you'd much prefer to have your driveway off Woodville Highway than
That
Old
is
Woodville.
correct. And the whole thing is, no one's ever asked me. No one has ever asked me where it was going to go. I've only discussed this with my wife and family. So there was a lot of speculation out there.
And I understand the citizens' concerns that if something happens to
And I do
you,
too.
somebody else could come in there, and they probably could access off of Old Woodville Highway.
Well, that could go with any of the commercial businesses on down the road.
Exactly. Anything can happen.
Now, something else that I've had discussions with and found the county ordinance requires, we have to have a privacy fence. So this fence is going to cover 3 sides of the property: north side, south side, and the east or west side.
You can't do a
It'd be the
landscape
west.
buffer? You gotta be a fence?
Most of the property has already been cleared. There's not a lot of existing landscaping out there, so he may not have that option.
To put a fence up.
No, to do just a
Landscape.
natural landscape buffer.
Well, here's why I would do the fence. The entrance would be on Woodville Highway, okay? The building will sit on the first 2/3 of the property. The last third is going to be developed landscape to be a ceremonial area for anybody that would like to get married there. The fence is an 8-foot fence. That way people going down Old Woodville or on the bike path, that's correct. That is correct. But again, this is something that's in development. We've been looking at the all aspects of it, and we want to meet everybody's concerns and address everybody's concerns. But and the landscaping is required, so there'll be a considerable amount of landscaping.
Yeah, last time this came forward, there was you weren't here, and
I was late.
the concern about this was that where you were coming in at.
That is
okay?
correct.
And as long as you're coming in on Old Woodville Highway, this would be really good for the county. If you were going back on Old Woodville, then it's
And we understand.
disrupting the residential neighborhood, and I couldn't support it then.
And that's not our concern.
So-
That's not our contention. No, we want it off of Woodville. Intent. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right.
Discussion, any more questions for the applicant? No?
Nope.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, all for the motion?
Aye.
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 Yes, we do. All, motion carries. All right, is that it for planning and zoning?
Yes, sir.
You get that, Kelly? Kelly, did you get that? You're okay with the motion?
Okay, no commissioner agenda items. County attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to have a brief discussion with you all about the airport item and what has been going on with regard to the county's proposed special act to establish the Wakulla County Airport Authority. As you remember, last fall, this board approved a proposed bill and requested that our representative file the bill. The bill was sent to the representative. The required delegation meeting was held back in December. And comments were taken. There was a pretty well-attended meeting over at the community center at that time. Since that time, the bill was submitted. It went through bill drafting. It came out and it was filed very shortly thereafter without the county having an additional opportunity to review it. When we did review it, we discovered that there were some substantive changes that were made to the bill that weren't necessarily in line with previous direction that we had received from you all as far as your desires for what that airport authority would look like and how it would operate. The most notable one is that in changing the way that the airport authority board was selected from an elected board, as you all had put it forward, to an appointed board by this board, it transformed that district from an independent special district to a dependent special district. A dependent special district is a creature of the county. The county maintains ultimate responsibility, both legal and financial, for all of its dependent districts. Doing that sort of completely flipped the whole purpose of us putting forward an independent special district.
Do we have any other dependent districts, for example?
I don't believe you have any dependent districts right now. It's worth noting you can create a dependent district by local ordinance and not have a bunch of restrictions included in a bill that you would then have to go to the legislature in the event it had to change.
What about our IDA? Would that be considered?
Probably. IDA is, I mean, it's a creature of statute, but it's also in some cases treated as an independent or a dependent special district. So that's probably as close as you get to it. But as far as any dependent districts like this with a separate, completely separate board and special limited function, there aren't any. For example, you don't have a port authority district here or a hospital district or a fire district. In other counties, some of those types of districts operate routinely. So with that, we reached out to our representative, expressed some concerns. There's been a lot of back and forth. We've tabled our agenda item on this because right now, if we take any action, it's sort of a moving target. We don't know what the final bill is going to look like. And so we're kind of continuing our discussions with the representative's office. And once we know what that bill is going to look like, we will bring it back to you at that time so that you guys only have to hear this one more time, hopefully.
But right now, it can't move forward as a bill because it has to have our approval to move forward, doesn't it?
No.
No.
Well, it actually, under Chapter 189, there is a provision that the legislature can only create a dependent district with at the request and consent of the county. Which technically you've not given your request or consent to create a dependent district. So that is an argument, but we think there's probably going to be an amicable resolution here, hopefully one that will make the county's desires come to fruition without ruffling too many feathers, but we're not sure at this point what that's going to look like. And so until we know exactly what that's going to look like, we're not going to bring this item back to you.
Okay. Any more questions?
We hope maybe at the next meeting we would have a better idea.
John Andrew Smith, plenty of time to read it.
Exactly. Well, everyone should have.
We'll give you plenty of time to read it over.
Oh, well, we've read it. I can almost quote it to you.
Yeah. No, I mean, everyone should have plenty of time to read it. We were given 15 minutes before it was filed, which isn't quite enough time.
I would say that this bill is...
John, you need to come on up here if you're going to talk.
John loves
This is
talk.
a procedural issue, not me, what I'm opposed to do, not opposed. This bill has been filed and it has been referred. So when a legislator files a bill, it's kind of like when you give him a bill. When you give him a bill, you lose complete control of it. You have complete control of it as long as you draft it and so forth, but when you hand that bill to any legislator, then that is his bill.
Or her bill.
Or her bill, excuse me, his or her bill. It's their bill. It's the legislator's bill. The legislator has a very, very similar situation when, after you give them the bill, they have complete control over changing, adjusting, and so forth, that bill any way they want to. And that's what's basically happened. This bill got changed prior to the time it was introduced. Okay. So once it's introduced, the legislator actually loses some control over that bill because it's then available to anyone else, including me, you, to make adjustments or changes to that bill. It is also referred, which means that the Speaker of the House has decided that this bill, because of its content, goes to this committee, or this committee. So it's out there and can be heard, and the bill that you have is the bill that's introduced, and it is the bill that anybody now, if it's heard, or the legislator that introduces himself or herself, has to get approval from a committee to make any changes. Up until now, that legislator can look at that bill, up until he introduces it, can look at the bill and make any change he wants to. The next change he makes, there will be people there suggesting different changes, or because he has to do it by committee. He cannot do it by sending it to bill drafting. So I just want to let you know that you've got a situation where it's not quite like it was last week. Friday, this bill was not, well, it was introduced before then. Friday, it was referred. Now it's referred to 2 committees, really 3. And one of those committees is the only committee in the legislature that has the ability to take that bill and redistribute it to another bill. It was referred also to the Ways and Means Committee. So now the Ways and Means Committee has that bill, regardless of how the legislator wants to change it, regardless how you want to change it, regardless of how I want to change it. And I got some good ideas about that bill.
This is all very fascinating, John. Let's talk about this later.
The what? Oh, good. Well, she made the point that left.
Oh, you like to talk about this kind of stuff.
I know I do.
You know a lot more about it than I do.
Any action taken on this bill as of Friday requires an amendment submitted by a legislator, including the legislator that introduces the bill. So I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Understood, but our point in coming back with you all is that you've given us direction that you've requested and consented to a certain type of district being created. That's not what is the point now, so we need direction from you all on whether you're still going to request and consent to this.
Gotcha.
Any more discussion on that?
Anything else?
No.
John's very passionate about legislature.
I've been on this for 7 years.
Okay.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. County Administrator?
No, I have nothing.
Nothing?
No, Heather was a lot more diplomatic than I was.
Before we leave that, I just want to make sure, Heather, before we leave that subject, can we pull the bill back now, or is it too late? Is that out of the?
We can't.
That's not something that the county can do right now, no. But you can certainly take a position on the bill, whether you're going to support it or whether you're going to revoke your consent and request.
But they can't make it a dependent bill without our agreeing to it.
Chapter 189 contains a provision that it generally frowns upon the legislature creating dependent districts. Dependent districts are supposed to be created by local ordinance. It does say in there that the legislature can create a dependent special district at the request and with the consent of the host government, basically the county.
Okay.
If I can make one comment, Mike.
We're done with the
Yeah,
proposal, sir. Let us talk about it now.
Kind of what John said, once this thing is filed, this takes a life of its own. I saw a bill last year that was amended several times through the process to the point that the sponsor, the legislator that presented the bill could not support his own bill. He said, this has been modified by these committees, and I no longer recognize this bill as what I proposed. And so he actually stood against his own bill at that point. So he's right. That committee has the ability to change anything along the way. So our representative can take the recommendations that we proposed and put it as an amendment, and that can be voted up or voted down by the committee.
But then it's still got to go to the Senate, too.
Right.
Yeah, we submitted to Representative Schoaf's office today the agreed upon that our amendment, basically amending the entire document almost. We'll wait and see what comes out of it, what maneuvers he makes, and like I say, Heather said, in the next meeting, we'll say here's what it is or it isn't.
Okay.
Is there
I
a
understand.
companion bill?
I don't think a companion bill has been filed.
That's not how that works. With special acts, that's not the same process.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing else? County Administrator?
we got a lot of stuff going on. No, so not at this time. We'll be like I've talked to you before. We're bringing. Last week we had a meeting about our public safety master plan. We're going to be rolling that out. We've got a lot of work that's done, and we're going to hopefully be bringing it to the board 1st of March. That will establish a public safety plan along with financing for capitalization and operations well into the future, and locations of where fire and rescue and sheriff's annex offices should be located or will be located. We're currently looking for land in a couple of these areas to try to get ahead of the curve. Like I say, that'll be coming probably in March, if not end of February. I kind of doubt it, but there's a lot of information. We may be even asking for a workshop to go over it because it is an extensive study. But I'll be coming probably the next meeting or talking about that, and maybe asking you for a workshop for that meeting. Also, we're John here reminded me we're at the EDC. We've got should have by Thursday or Friday the final scope of work to be able to give to Brandy so she can advertise for an RFP for an EDC consultant. So that'll be going. We've got like I said, we just got a whole lot of things on the hopper. If you ever want to see what's going on, come and look at Brandy's desk, or her whiteboard.
Can we erase it?
You will see exactly how many RFPs and RFQs, and realize it's just her and one other lady that are doing these. So she's full on right now between that and other
That would
contracts.
really mess you up if somebody erased your dry erase
That would
board.
really mess me up. I'd probably have some kind of nervous breakdown.
The Smith Creek
At least
Road.
take a picture of it.
One thing, the Smith Creek Road project from Sopchoppy to just past Cipher Creek Bridge, that project is on hold right now due to some environmental permitting. The Corps has drugged their feet a little bit. Army Corps of Engineers, wetland impact, and we've worked. What's that?
Culverts.
Culverts. That's what we're waiting on right now for the culverts. The road has been widened with limestone, as well as the shoulders have been reestablished, but we cannot move forward until we get the culverts. And there's a lot of culverts that we're replacing. Every culvert that crosses the road, we're replacing with concrete.
Speaking of Smith Creek, any status on Three Bridges Road about getting that thing repaved, where we chewed the asphalt up?
Oof.
I know you sent that email out some time ago saying that the
We
legislature-
we finally settled with the federal government on a method to go about. Basically, they wanted us to enter into a contract to where with them and Liberty County and the National Forest Service, that was an open-ended deal, meaning if the bids came back at X, here's the funding that the federal government was going to put in there, and counties, y'all got to make up the difference. No formulas, no cap, no nothing. So we went, Liberty County, you can sign that thing, but we're not going to do that here in Wakulla County, because the exposure, we didn't have the full scope of what they were
Liberty
doing.
County side isn't dug up though.
And Liberty County, they've agreed. So they came along with us and said, wait just a minute. So the federal guys, they said they agreed with us. They said they would change the contract. we haven't seen it since then, and that's going on.
There is hope that that will be repaid.
There's funding sitting out there through and I forgot the name of the FLAP program, and that's sitting out there, still available. We're waiting on the federal government right now.
People fish down there.
A lot of people fish down there, and we're still waiting on the feds for that. Also, yep. So anyway, just to let you know, Smith Creek Road is going to sit there a little while. Hopefully, according to our engineers, they're hoping to have by the end of this month, first next month, approval from the Army Corps. We've jumped through all the hoops, so hopefully we'll have that. And this has been going on almost a year now, which is unusual for these small impacts. So we've got that. Hopefully
That road's
that'll.
a lot better than it was when I was growing up. 16 feet wide when I was
Yeah, it'll be tremendous once we get it finished. It'll really make a large difference. We've also let folks know in Grinders Addition, you'll see survey work going out there. We're beginning the survey work for our next extension of our sewer system.
Which roads?
That would be all the roads within Grinders Addition.
Nelson Road.
Nelson Road, every road in there, whether it's paved or not, we'll get sewer in it. We'll be paving all the roads, repaving all the roads again, ditching them just like we did in Wakulla Gardens, and also Magnolia Gardens. And we're waiting for some. We're hopeful to get an award in Wakulla Gardens soon by the Water Management District. Hopefully we'll get something there as well.
Speaking of Grinders Addition,
yes,
we talked at one time about Barber Road, about doing some stabilization, some coal mix on there. Is there any status on that?
That's something Mike and we've talked about that. He's going to present me a couple of plans on some roads that need some stabilization beyond
That
what we
and
have.
I think it was Guy Strickland, right? We talked about
Guy Strickland. We're not going to be doing the big exposed aggregate asphalt. Come to find out, it's just as cheap to round rock the road and pave it with regular asphalt than to do that.
Well,
because of the few, they have to shut their plants down, and it's just not worth it. They're producing too much asphalt right now.
And the only advantage, of course, of the coal mix is you don't need stormwater.
That's right. You don't need stormwater, but if the price is so high, we're not going to do that.
Anyway, those people have been after me for years about those two.
We're getting close to also paving Lonnie Raker, Council Moore, and Naaman Spears. Those will be paved hopefully in the
Speaking of Lonnie
term.
Raker, we're waiting on the Comcast, right?
Yes.
And we still have not given up on straightening out Lonnie Raker, right? Where it's got that jog in it around Brothers Field.
Yes, we're going to do that. That's in our work plan, yes.
That's very dangerous.
I know it's very dangerous, but I've got more projects than I got staff.
You know, Philip Cooksey called me. You know where Philip lives?
Mm-hmm.
Right? He called me asking to have the speed limit raised to 45 on Lonnie Raker. He lives right there on the thing. So, but I told him we can't do that till we get that straightened out. You know what I'm talking about. Because it just, you know.
So do we anticipate Lonnie Raker soon, starting?
As soon as we have the engineering done, we've got everything ready to go. It's a matter of Comcast moving their last section. As soon as they do that, we're going to release Lonnie Raker, Council Moore, and Naaman Spears.
Yeah.
Power lines are moved. Everything's moved except Comcast.
Well, also, we're going to be doing some paving work. More than likely, be on would it be the next agenda for landfill?
Yes, and let me clarify
Praise
that
the Lord.
what we're going to do is we're going to ask board to approve a contract amendment with C.W. Roberts piggybacking on the Smith Creek project, and so hopefully that will be at the next meeting as well. We're just waiting on some final pricing from them to know
Now,
what the
this
cost
is
is
C.W.
gonna be.
Roberts on what?
On Lonnie Raker, Council Moore.
Council Moore and Naaman Spears.
County cleared the right-of-way, right? Is the county going to do any sub-base work, grading, or nothing like that? So CW handle it all.
They're going to handle
And
it
you
all.
mentioned earlier they're going to resurface the landfill road?
Yes, that's PV, and that will also be on the next board meeting as well.
Desperately needed also.
That's going to be a contract amendment on the Spring Creek highway improvements.
Are we doing, speaking of Spring Creek Highway, are we looking at turn lanes at the middle school and elementary school there on Spring Creek Highway?
That is on our list.
Desperately
yes.
needed.
That is desperately needed, just as about 30 other things.
Can we add that on when, you said we got a scrap project on Spring Creek Highway coming up?
No, that was a county-funded 1-cent sales tax project to increase the signalization at Max
Meats.
and then the intersection at MLK.
I mean, I'd be more than if we had the money to.
Well, that's the problem is we don't, and with what the funding that we see we're going to be getting here in the future potentially from the state for sewering more of the county, we're going to we got to really take a good hard look at what we're spending now and next year,
I just
and
want
may have to slow down on some
Keep
of
the
the
bug
paving.
in somebody's ear. Even if it's 4 or 5 years from now, we do get scrap money, we really need turn lanes at those 2 schools.
Yes, and also good news is the state created a new SCOP program, which is Bridge SCOP. We're going to be turning in 4 for major maintenance on bridges. So we're going to be turning in 4 bridges to do maintenance
Not
on.
replacement, though.
That's not replacement, but the good news is this year we spent, Brandy, what, 50,000 on the Soptoppy River Bridge?
Yes, we spent a considerable amount just catching up things that hadn't been maintained for
We were
quite
bumping
some time.
$100,000 on
We
bridges.
spent a ton on the upper bridge, too,
Yeah.
right? With the
That
boat
was
ramp?
about $215,000.
Yeah, we replaced, we've done work on Soptoppy River Bridge. We've done work on,
Traffic Creek Bridge lost a pile.
Otter Creek Rise Bridge,
Lost
as well as Wakulla Springs Road over there.
Upper Bridge.
Upper Bridge. So we've done a lot. We've got a long way to go, but this will help out. We'll be putting 4 projects in on that. We've
This
got
is going to be a major, don't interrupt you, but like I said,
really. I'd have never known that.
we
Randy.
literally lost pilings on bridges. They're so old, they haven't been maintained in so long.
Yeah, and that's not. We're not. Hopefully, that won't happen. We're trying to stay ahead of it much better than what we have in the past. In the past, the bridges were extremely neglected, and so since we've taken it over, we've done a whole lot better job already. We're caught up to where DOT is happy with us with what we're doing. So there was severe neglect that went on. So anyway, but we're working on those issues. We've also got, as you said, you can go along Trice Lane. You can see we started at the community center. We're working in small tranches of the sidewalk project, primarily due to land acquisition. We're at a point we're going to need to acquire some more land for right-of-way where some lands encroaches in on, or where our right-of-way encroached on the land, I should say, on the property. So we're going to be bringing that to you hopefully soon. Mike's going to be talking to that owner here shortly. But that project will actually continue on and go and hit Wakulla Aaron and go north on, or excuse me, east on Wakulla Aaron. Also,
Is that where the pasture is? I noticed there's like telephone poles real close to the road.
Yeah,
right
where
there.
we're stake sign. There's stakes out. Yeah, that's where we've got that property comes across the road. So Mike's already been having some discussion about that. But also we're relooking at also with our engineers in the area where Cager Posey and East Ivan and Old Bethel come in as far as our sewer complex in there, and we're working on either a main sewer collection main, gravity collection main there, or we're also looking at a SCADA system that we may just have pump stations put in there and put a master pump station at our at the landfill area. We're looking at those 2 different options. Naturally, the SCADA system would make a little bit more sense if we can, economic sense if we can get it. If not, we'll have to put a gravity system in there. So we're looking at all those options as well.
Mike, by the way, Edwin Brown has all the original surveys from Trice Lane when it was paved.
Yep. So we've surveyed that road. We've wasted enough. We've killed quite a few trees with survey stakes on that road.
What about Buck Miller? I know we were waiting on some utility relocation on that. Has that taken place?
Buck Miller, I'm not sure. I'll have to check and see. But we've that's one of the roads that we've finally got. We're all the way through with it, and we need to get in there and shape it and crown it.
We got right away all the way.
Oh, we got right away all the way through. The biggest thing is get in there and shape it and crown it.
Good deal.
And put the ditch system in, but we had to get a couple of those poles. I'm not sure whether those poles have been moved at this point in time. We've got also, we're working on Newport Park. We're going to bring into you guys hopefully in about 4 or 5 months contract for building a new restroom facility, showering, all that stuff. That park currently we're making. It's a very popular park, and it's time to upgrade these facilities because they're old. And
Per half money or 1 cent sales?
No, just 1 cent sales tax money. And but also we just completed a project replacing all of the a lot of the signage on the water. We still got a long way to go. We started over at Shell Point, replacing a lot of signs that were blue and pylons that were blue channel markers that were blown down by Hurricane Michael. We just completed a project there. We still have a lot more to go, but that funding comes through the boating fund. So all that we spent quite a bit of money through the boating fund. So that is I can't stress that enough for folks to pay their boating. If you want to see improvements, That's how you see it. And we're making every dollar there stays in the boating fund. It doesn't go to salaries, any of that stuff. It goes for improvements. At all of our facilities, Roz, we take care of all of the signage and buoy channel markers, except for the channel markers leading out from Rock Landing out to the Gulf, and then from the confluence of the Wakulla River and St. Mark's where they meet out to the ocean. Those are Army Corps, Coast Guard and Army Corps of Engineers maintains those. Every other sign in the county and channel marker we maintain. So we've got that going on, and about 30 other things. So, but if anybody wants to see what we're doing, I think Ralph was at our last projects meeting. He can tell you there's a long list of projects that we've got going on. We're going to be redoing the Smith Creek Fire, building a brand new Smith Creek Firehouse. Hope we're going to be bringing that to you guys, hopefully, and probably the architectural fees and all that stuff we'll bring to you the next meeting or the next, and then we'll, as soon as it's designed, we'll build it. That building they have now is currently falling down, so we're going to have to build one there, but it'll be built in the same style and manner that we're going to build all the rest of them into the future, and we already have those plans ready. So
that's my grandma's house right across the road. Now they're going to vote there too, right?
They're going to vote there as well, yes, sir. And we're setting it up for that, which doesn't add anything hardly to it. So we've got
tonight we approved the change for so now we'll have the cell tower out there, and
yes, that's another thing. The reason Verizon has agreed to put a antenna on the tower at Smith Creek. When they did the survey, this back last year, when they did the survey work, for some reason, Verizon, they went there and made sure that the tower was where the state said the tower was. Coming to find out, the fence was a foot off, actually over on our property, which we gave the state property. So 8 months ago, we told the state, well, go ahead and prepare it and get it to us. So, and you're just now today getting it. So hopefully now they'll let Verizon know, and this will help out folks in Smith Creek as well as the evacuation route from Carabel, Apalachicola way up to 61 or whatever that road is, 67, 61, I keep forgetting.
And it's going to have a ton of gossip when she gets back.
Nanette will be able to talk on the phone finally, and so hopefully
church on Sunday is going to be a fun day.
And she'll be able to call NASA.
Yep.
She sees the next
and the bear people.
That's right. So that's, I don't have anything else.
Okay. We have one, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One citizen to be heard, John Chubb.
Thank you. After hearing all that, I don't know if I want to say anything at all. No, I was just looking over the property appraiser's website today, looking at Fred's property and other things around it, and thinking about how disjointed it seems like things are happening along that stretch of highway, and talking with Randy here a couple months back about one of the CRTPA's next priority projects is 4-laning Woodville Highway down to the truck route. It's going to do the same thing over there as Blueprint 2000 did to Highway 319 a few years ago. We're not going to be able to keep up with it. It just seems like we've done a pretty good job, I guess, of working on trying a town plan for this side of the county. But the stretch of road over there between the Wakulla County line down to Wakulla Station, I don't know that we've done anything on it, and that may be a good thing to put an EDC director on. I don't know.
There's actually, if I could, Mr. Chairman, there's been a ton of money spent on that corridor. CRTPA did a needs a corridor study all the way from Bloxham North, if I'm not mistaken, so you might want to call CRTPA, and they did all kind of stuff.
Well, I just say about us deciding what we want our land use to be along the corridor there, so that there's a little bit more certainty for people when they decide whether to buy there or sell or what to do.
Well, and that's
we'd be happy to participate in that.
That is one of the things out of our public safety master plan you'll see is you will actually see that we need more emphasis in that area from a standpoint of public safety, but also, like you're talking about, we need to put some more investment in that area, because we need to do that. I agree with that.
All right.
Okay.
Put it on the list, right?
Thank you. Discussion issues by commissioners. You go ahead. You had an item.
Oh, I was just going to...
I got mine out of the way.
Thank you. I was making sure he was finished. I didn't have an item or anything to discuss. Thank you.
You got a thorough
You know, he can't go to CRPTA on the same days as
CRTP.
committee. Whatever, Randy, the acronym. That's it. I really was just telling him to be quiet.
Oh, good. I think you did it.
Exactly.
Well,
I'd like to talk about the upcoming election in light of the Supreme Court ruling that we know about that basically said Orange County could not have nonpartisan elections. You know, we got advice from the county attorney that that didn't directly affect us. However, we had a very similar charter, and so by extension, it looks like that applies to us. We were told by the supervisor of elections, you know, basically kind of summarized, he said, well, you guys do what you have to with your charter, but I'm running partisan elections. And now we've got candidates that some are filing NPA, some are filing partisan, and as of today, I heard that, okay, we're going to run nonpartisan elections, and so basically ignore what the Supreme Court said. We also, that is contrary to the advice that we received from our attorney. We've got two issues here. We got a charter issue and we got an elections issue. And I know it's not our business to get into the election side of it, except if our supervisor of elections goes down the wrong road and there's a suit because of it, we're going to be the one funding that. We're going to be the one responsible for that. And so I'm very concerned that we don't have a clear message, or we don't have a clear message from Tallahassee. Certainly we've got our advice, and I think we've got good advice, but we're going down a different path as a county. We're going to hold the bag if there's a suit because of it. I would like to see us maybe request an attorney general opinion and specifically ask, does that apply to county commissioners? We know the Supreme Court ruling did not specifically call out county commissioners because they weren't part of the suit. However, we've been explained by our attorney that that section of the statute applies to county commissioners as well as constitutionals. And so, you know, it stands to reason that that would apply to us as well. So, you know, I'm concerned. I know attorney general opinion is an opinion. It's not binding, but it also gives us some directions and gives us some coverage. And I'm just concerned that we've got candidates right now that are running several different directions, and what's happening today is not what we were told was going to happen when this ruling came about. And so I think we've got a potential mess on our hands depending on how this works out. I think we're setting the stage that someone is going to lose an election and have grounds to complain that we confused the public or we didn't follow the Supreme Court. I mean, there's just too many nuances to this.
Do you make that in the form of a motion? I'll be glad to.
It's not an agenda item, so it would require a 5-0 vote.
I think we need to do it.
If we can't get the 5-0 vote.
You know, what you have right now is that he's going to run all the constitutional officers as partisan elections and the commissioners as nonpartisan. That's, you know, because we weren't, the commissioners were not covered in the lawsuit.
No, but the statute is the same.
And the public, but our public asked us to have nonpartisan elections. So right now, you're either telling the public, we don't care what you thought, okay, or we're going to make them all partisan elections.
Well, here's the problem with that, Chuck, is that if we do what he's saying, and we do nonpartisan for county commissioners, and then the public votes it down and says we're okay, we want y'all to be partisan, then everybody who's running in the race, it doesn't matter who they are, county commissioner candidates, will have to redo all they'll have to refile, and they'll have to redo their
everybody after March will have to do, but they don't file until June anyway, so that's not a big issue.
You got to have your petitions.
You got to have your petitions.
But candidates want to make campaign stuff, signs, handouts, start campaigning.
I'm campaigning right now. So.
Okay, but you're running as an NPA, I assume, okay? Or whatever you're running.
It's nonpartisan. I'm running nonpartisan. That's what it is right now.
You may end up having to change all your stuff.
Well, if you file nonpartisan, even if this votes and it becomes a partisan race, you can be a registered Republican, Democrat, whatever, and still run nonpartisan. But for those who want to follow what the Supreme Court said and register affiliated with a party, then that's where the confusion comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah, what we were trying as a community and the whole vote back in 2014 was that we wanted to move away from partisan politics for local issues because local issues depend, you should be voting for the person, not for the party.
Totally agree, and we all supported that. And I wish it was that way today. However, the Supreme Court has now ruled contrary to that. That's the problem. It's no longer what we prefer. It's no longer what our charter says, what our voters. Now the Supreme Court has said that we don't have the ability to do that. So short of changes to the statute, we're stuck, and we're potentially going to be in a position where if Orange County could be sued for a statute and we're following a charter that follows the exact same statute, we could be sued as well.
So you're asking for not to change what we have on the ballot.
No, he's asking to get a
Clarify.
opinion.
Just clarify an
He's got to
opinion.
get an opinion from the Attorney General's office, not
Should
changing.
we be running partisan or nonpartisan elections for county commissioners? That's what we need a decision about.
We're not going to make the decision. We want
Yeah, we
them to
can't-
tell us.
Aren't the ballots already gone out?
No.
Or they'll go out next week?
The ballots for the March presidential preference primary.
Yeah, when this occurs.
This item will be on, it's set to be on that to
wouldn't affect
determine whether you want to repeal
This
that.
wouldn't affect that. That would still run its course. What this would affect is whenever the primary is, sometimes in January, we need a clarification. Does that need to be a partisan ballot or a nonpartisan ballot? Basically, are we following the charter or are we following the Supreme Court? That's basically, and does that Supreme Court ruling apply to county commissioners, or is it limited to
Constitutional.
That's all. Clarification, and I'm good with the outcome of that.
Okay.
But we've got candidates filed partisan now. We've got filed nonpartisan, and so no one is clear. And you know what? It's not Mr. Buddy's fault, and it's not our fault. It's a matter the Supreme Court has ruled, and it's kind of thrown a kink in the entire works. So we need someone above us that we can say, okay, this is what the state has established, and by God, this is what we're going to do. We're going to follow it.
So I'll second your motion to ask.
If
for
we're going to get a
opinion.
5-0 vote, if not, I'll bring it back as an agenda item at the
You're
next
just
meeting.
asking for an opinion.
That's right.
We're not
Just for the opinion,
I'm asking
yes.
Heather.
Can we get some clarification on what the question will be to the Attorney General? Is it just, does the Orange County case cover county commissioners?
Yes.
Okay.
Or should Wakulla County have partisan or
Well,
nonpartisan?
I don't think you're going to get an opinion on that from the AGO. I think that narrower question would,
Can we have a second question that asks, in this situation, should we follow our charter or Supreme Court ruling? Can we have those
State-
two
charter or
prongs
state law, basically, because
Can we follow those-
the Supreme Court decision said
based on the
that
state law?
there's this set of state statutes that say, one says it's preempted to the state, these kind of decisions, and the other ones basically say that for these types of offices, partisan elections are provided except for county judges and school board members.
If we can ask those two questions, I think that would be
I'll
good.
second that.
And, Heather has cautioned me that we don't know how fast we'll get this opinion back. Chances are we may not get it back before the citizens vote in the presidential preference primary of whether or not they want it. But if the citizens vote yes and they follow the Supreme Court, it's kind of a non-issue. If they vote no and they don't follow the Supreme Court, now we need that opinion more so than ever.
True. Okay.
Well, so the question is, should we follow the charter or should we follow the Supreme Court? That's,
And does it apply to county commissioners specifically? Yep. Just clarifying it, and whatever the outcome is.
as long as it's kept that clean. Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's whatever the outcome, let's follow it. At least,
I agree.
at least it's not us just firing blind.
The outcome of what? One opinion?
The opinion, the Attorney General opinion, which is an opinion. It's not binding, but it's an opinion.
Better than speculation.
Well, and if we get it wrong, we got it wrong with guidance.
Well, that's kind of how we got here.
Yeah.
Because we got it wrong, so.
I'm not up for re-election, so I don't.
We're gonna-
We were wrong, but we
got it.
part wrong.
We tried.
We tried.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds like we got.
So I'll make that a
Second.
motion.
I just need clarification on the two questions one more time.
Okay, what I've written down is, one, does the Orange County decision cover Board of County Commissioner members? And two, does the charter or state law trump in the conduct of the county's elections coming up? And this isn't going to impact the March election because that is presidential preference primary. We don't have these offices on that election. The referendum question to repeal this troublesome provision of the charter is on that. But this will impact both your August upcoming primary and then your general election.
Okay.
If that charter amendment doesn't pass, then it's
All right, so,
Well, if the charter amendment doesn't pass, I mean, it would, an interested party withstanding can bring a declaratory judgment action challenging the county charter provision. And the court, if the court then strikes it based upon the Orange County case and the various state statutes that preempt election law to the state away from the county, then the charter provision is null and void at that point.
Same thing you said.
If a court strikes it, then we don't have to worry about it anyway.
We don't
So
need to
that is
vote
the,
at
that
that
is
point.
the backup plan really, but we would have to have, you know, either the Republican and the Democratic parties come forward and challenge that to clean up that issue, or another interested party could do that.
Doesn't the party have to have standing, so it'd have to be somebody that lost an election?
It wouldn't, I mean, we don't, what we want to avoid is to have this issue come up during an election contest. We don't want to throw our elections into turmoil over a charter provision, which is why you guys were proactive and put it on the March ballot.
People calling Ukraine, now you got
Exactly.
charter amendment.
okay,
And who seconded this?
Randy did.
Randy.
Okay, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Hess?
Okay, well, I have a citizen sent me a letter and asked me to read it, and I wanted to, but I'm going, you know, that's a bad precedent to set for us reading letters from citizens.
Yes.
And then everybody be sending us a letter to read it to the board and into the record. I'll put the letter into the record to make sure it goes as citizens to be heard addition. But basically her comment is that we need to move the meetings later in the evening. And we've done it before and it didn't work. Nobody extra showed up. And the question is, do we want to try it again just to see if anybody shows up for at least a meeting or two and see if we can, you know, see if it is actually the time that's causing the problem or just apathy that's causing
See, it'd be a problem tonight.
Shouldn't be
Seemed to be a problem for attendance tonight.
I know, attendance was great tonight, so it's
No way in favor of moving it to 7. If we're going to do that, let's have them Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd rather have them then.
That's a possibility, but I don't think that anybody want to come in at that time either. So.
I don't want to come in at 7. I think
But I just, you know, it was a very impassioned letter about making sure that citizens have a right to speak, and we need to make sure that we're at least here until 6 o'clock and give them an opportunity. So
we can make sure that we're here. What?
we try to not hurry the meetings too fast, although we have some record fast ones.
I'm not going to sit here and twiddle our thumbs till 6. But
Yep.
anyway,
We used to, though, you know that.
while you're talking, can you get somebody to grade 309, Chuck? Please.
I'm going out with the Forest Service and
Go down 309.
and I'm going to take him down 309.
Bless your heart.
Okay.
I told Heather earlier, did nobody believe the story about the
road
so
getting-
big the gator, about a 4-foot gator was in the pothole.
I've had a 4-wheel drive truck stuck in the middle of a system road, so I understand that. But I'll take it.
That's what I said, 6-foot alligator. That is the worst road in the national forest.
I don't think it's the worst road in the
I
national
guarantee
forest, but I'm planning on taking the forest. We just got a new ranger, and so I'm planning on taking him out
Remember
there.
the beekeepers, okay? Nobody
understand
remembers
the
the
beekeepers.
beekeepers. There's bee yards all up and down 309. They can't even take the poor bees down there because the hives frame slap together and kills them. Do you support killing bees, Chuck?
Well, the issue comes forward, and I'm trying to work on an agenda item for this because we basically, our communities are getting surrounded by too much fuel. And we're getting, a lot of our communities are now at risk of the same thing that happened at East Point. And so I'm trying to get...
More controlled burns, that's what you're saying.
More burns.
More burns. They're not
It's always
burning
wanted
enough.
more burns. I agree with you.
And so I'm trying to talk this new ranger into it, and I'll probably be bringing forward a resolution for us to send a letter saying, you know, we
Don't
need you to
turn
burn
off
more.
after the campground and go to FH13, go all the way to 375, all right?
Yep.
That's where it's
Is
bad.
the new ranger from the mountains like the previous one
He's from
was?
out west in Utah.
Okay.
So he's a range manager. So maybe he'll be a little better than the last one.
Okay, one final thing, addressing that letter that we all received from that particular citizen. I just want to say this to the public, that we do listen to the public. I mean, that was one of the accusations in that letter, and I want to make it clear that, and I've been doing this a while, is that we take on board all the stuff we hear from citizens, and we value that. We really do. But you have to understand that there's other things that we have to consider beyond that, and that's, you know, how it's going to impact the county as a whole. And because your area, you feel about a certain way, then it may impact other areas of the county, either negatively or positively. So we try to take that on board, at least I do. I think all the commissioners value that input, and we want to work with the public, but at the same time, you got to understand we hear that, we hear staff, and at the end of the day, we have to make a decision based on what we think is best for Wakulla County, and that's where we're at. So that's all I have. Anybody else have anything?
I just want to say one follow-up on that to the commission's. There is actually case law in the context of land use decisions that, you know, there's established standards of review and how this board has to go about making its decisions. And there's actually case law saying, you know, merely voting and counting hands in a popularity contest is a sure way to get your decisions overturned in a lawsuit.
Right.
And so you guys have a lot of competing interests, and I know you guys take your jobs very seriously.
But there's a lot of issues where, like a comp plan amendment, where we have a lot of authority
You
in
have,
what
you
that
have,
takes
do have
place.
discretion with comp plan amendments, but not so much
Not
with
with zoning,
rezonings and
like
things
tonight.
like that. And that's what I was addressing.
I mean, I could have gone against the Cager Posey, but it's in the town plan. It's what we said we wanted. So, you know, even though I disagreed with the ones right, you know, just down the street, 100 yards, okay, I had to, you know, I was going to vote for this one because it was, you know, we've already given this person the rights to build this facility as he is.
I commend you. You were consistent, and I appreciate that.
Let's adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank all of you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Hold out there.
Chilly Willy.
Chuck, we had